Welcome golfers who read, readers who golf, and any other randos that the algorithm kicked over my way. I'm Mike, and in this video I'm going to review The Four Foundations of Golf by Jon Sherman. I'll provide a brief overview of the book, where I think he hit the fairway and where I think he may have hit the rough. That was bad, I'm sorry. Also, who I think the book is for, and some final thoughts. If that sounds like something you'd like, stick around. If not, eject now. I understand. Or better yet, go watch the video of me breaking 80 for the first and so far only time. Man, I love that video. Okay, so let's get started. But first, you might be asking, who's Jon Sherman? If you're thinking the name is familiar, yes. It sounds like maybe he's that one actor, in that movie that your wife likes with the girl, the thing that happens at the end and the song, or maybe he's a singer. Different Jon Shermans. This Jon Sherman is the one who started the game improvement focused website Practical Golf back in 2015, where he provides advice on how to play golf, not how to play golf swing. All of which hopefully leads to more enjoyment, lower scores, and better overall outcomes. He co-hosts the top-rated game improvement podcast, The Sweet Spot, with golf coach Adam Young, whose book I will also be reviewing at some point in the future. He's a frequent guest across the golf media space, and I also think he's a pretty accomplished amateur player. The general thesis of the book is that golf is supposed to be fun, and that too many golfers lose sight of that because of a mismatch between our expectations and our outcomes. The four foundations for having a good golf game, which of course is relative, are managing expectations, strategy, otherwise known as course management, purposeful practice, and the mental game. Our expectations are often unrealistic and aren't based on knowing the data. For instance, the make percentages of various lengths of putts between the pros and the average Joe. I mean, think about the guy, we all know him, the guy who's angry at every 25-foot putt he misses, as if he should make 8 out of 10 of those. It's just not realistic. His expectation doesn't match what the data says. The data says that his make percentage is less than 5%. Our expectations can also be warped by the perspective that the PGA broadcasts give us of how pros actually play. We shouldn't be comparing ourselves to those pros. Having the information or the data allows us to properly frame our expectations and be realistic about our game. I mean, if we choose to. Our own results reflect our skill, which is based on our practice habits and our on-course implementation and management. Are we practicing skills or are we ingraining bad habits? How are we transferring range results to the course? Do you have a range handicap and a course handicap? Are they different? If yes, and admit it, it's yes, then you're probably practicing the wrong way. Our mental approach or focus is sort of the binding agent that brings all of the other stuff together. Without the proper focus and attention, we will revert to the patterns and behaviors that lead to poor execution and poor performance, resulting in frustration and a tragic lack of fun. When expectations and course strategy are properly aligned with skill level, which we develop through purposeful practice, but coupled with a more mindfulness while playing, our results will improve and/or we now have a proper framework for appreciating and enjoying our play more. So where did this book hit the fairway? The organization of the book makes for really easy reference when you want to go back and review what you read before. The summaries at the end of each chapter are called big ideas, and it sort of distills what the chapter was about, obviously. Distilled. I'll be honest, I read this book maybe 6 or 8 months ago and relied heavily on those big idea sections to refresh my memory of the details. Number 2, I agree with the idea that too often golfers chase the wrong things for improvement. It's always new equipment. I mean, let's be honest, how many new putters are really going to make you a better putter? It's swing changes, it's leg, it's ground forces, it's torque. It goes on and on and on. It's not that those things are never needed. It's just that there might be lower hanging fruit for golf improvement. And lower hanging fruit that you can pick while literally sitting on your ass reading a book. I also studied economics, so I feel qualified to say that a change in perspective and expectations is probably a lot cheaper than a new putter. And 10 seconds of additional thought on your target as you're standing on the tee may yield more results than a new driver and another new driver swing thought. Okay, so where did the book maybe land in the rough? I'm a reader, so I don't consider a 400-page book to be a long book. But if you're just an occasional reader at best, or not really a recreational reader at all, reading through this book might feel like a slog. Part of that comes from what might feel a little bit like repetition, but rather than repetition, I think of it more as he's just coming at the same issue or the same problem from maybe a couple of different angles. As an author, you may not know which perspective will resonate most with your readers, so why not just put them all out there? And I feel like maybe there's a little bit of that going on. The length of the book is also due to the linear sort of build of each topic. By that, I mean he starts with the general premise and then builds concept upon concept until the whole of those concepts sort of answers the premise or supports the premise. If you aren't used to reading that style of book, it can be tempting to just cut to the end of each chapter and read the big ideas section. And honestly, maybe that increases your enjoyment of the book. And I guess that's the whole big idea anyways, right? All right, the other miss for me, and this is kind of petty and a bit tongue-in-cheek, but outside of the section on course strategy, there aren't a lot of pictures. This is kind of an unfair criticism because, let's face it, what pictures are you going to use in a chapter on incremental progress or growing your grit? But it's also a book on golf, so it wouldn't hurt to have some random images of some of the great courses that I know he's played. Okay, so who's this book really for? I honestly truly think this book is for everyone. Maybe not touring professionals, but I also doubt that they're on YouTube or in the bookstore looking for tips on how to get better at golf. And maybe there's a lesson in that for us. For beginners and high handicappers, I think a particular focus on expectations and practice, those two foundations, would probably be the most beneficial starting out. For more experienced golfers looking to take their game to the next level, or for those whose improvement has plateaued or maybe even regressed, special attention to the course strategy foundation may be the thing, maybe the spark to sort of ignite your continued improvement and get you out of that plateau and onto better golf and more enjoyable golf. And definitely golfers of all abilities are going to benefit from the mental game foundation. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, every golfer you know is an absolute mess between the ears. This book is like a relationship counselor between golfers and the game that most of us are obsessed with, but may unfortunately have a toxic or highly dysfunctional relationship with. It's both a diagnostic of our relationship issues, unreal expectations, poor or no course strategy, counterproductive practice habits, and a feeble mental game. It's also a toolkit with detailed instructions for addressing each of those issues, all with the goal of increasing our performance and establishing a healthy relationship with the game of golf, increasing our performance and our enjoyment of the game. It will make you want to tearfully hug your golf game, tell it you love it, tell it you're sorry, and it deserves better, but you're willing to work at it if it'll still have you. The Four Foundations of Golf is available on Amazon. But as with most things, I highly encourage you to go direct to Jon's website, www.practical-golf.com. Make your purchase there, even if it redirects you to Amazon in the end. So there it is. I gave you the read. Now I hope you make it. Oh God, that was cringy.